Hi everyone, welcome back to part 2 of repairing a fuel pump, or taking the old one out, putting the new one in. I just want to say that I've been watching lots of YouTube videos and they've all been really informative and they've helped me a hell of a lot to figure out what I'm doing with my car. But for some reason, nothing is straightforward on my little bud, and I think a lot of that is because, like a lot of really old cars, and Beetles especially, they're kind of left sat around for a long time, and Bud has been standing for ages apparently, and so everything is really hard to get off, everything's rusty, everything's properly gunked up and oily. And this is the stand that your fuel pump sits on. So your fuel pump sits like that, and then you have a little stand that goes down into the shaft with the little push rod here in the middle. Now this is just meant to lift right off, but I have literally had to force a knife in, just an ordinary kitchen knife because I don't have a lot of tools, and then get my pliers and just whack it to try and prise it off, and I've managed to do that. But that should not be the case. You shouldn't have to do that at all. And I can see that it's got a crack in it. It's that brittle and old. So I'm going to have to buy a new one of those before I can replace the new fuel pump, which is really frustrating. That's going to set me back a few days. But the back end, it's just like it's glued on. So someone in their infinite wisdom decided to just spray everything black. And I think possibly that has caused the paint to just stick everything together. So all the parts that should come off have been stuck together. A bit like when you go in an old house that has the old wooden sash windows and you try and slide one of those windows up, but you can't because someone has just slapped loads of paint over and it's kind of stuck the sides together. So I think this is what has happened with this possibly. Or maybe it's just that old, it's stuck itself. And what I don't want to do is cause any problems with the actual engine itself. So the top of the crankcase here, I don't want to carve into it with my knife. So I've got to be like super gentle, because what I want is a nice flush finish so that I get seals. And I won't have that if I'm digging chunks of metal out of it. But yeah, this is like really frustrating because it's not coming out and it's properly stuck and it's brittle, so it's just snapped. But I just wanted to share with you how difficult it can be. Things are never quite as straightforward as they should be. Yeah, it's just stuck at the back. I mean, you can see the amount of pressure that I'm having to put on this, and I've got to be super careful because I don't want any fragments going down. That would be very bad because then you just simply can't get it out. So this is just a pain of a job. Yeah, and nothing is ever straightforward when it comes to old cars. So when you watch all these lovely videos, just bear in mind that you might not actually be able to do what you want to do. You see, I mean, that is like, it's proper stuck on there. Let me just show you, and then I'm going to switch you off because you don't want to see me mucking about with this for hours. Yeah, everything's back to front on this. Can you see it? It's just, it's not coming off. No matter how much pressure I put on it, it's just stuck on. Wow, that was a bit of a nightmare. So if you watched the previous part of this video, you'd have seen me pulling the fuel pump out, and then I had trouble getting this. So this is the seal and the shaft that the push rod sits in, that goes into the crankcase. Now the issue that I had was that it was stuck, glued on, or I don't know what had happened to it, but when I pulled it out, that's what happened. It literally just shattered as I was trying to get it out. So that's in 3 pieces. Those of you who are eagle-eyed will see that one of those pieces is snapped off, and this is the actual shaft. So your push rod sits in that and goes down to the camshaft, I believe, and as the camshaft moves around, the push rod will go up and down, and that is what creates the pump force in the fuel pump. My issue is that now I've got the rest of that shaft sat in here, which is absolutely no good. So I'm going to have to try and pull it out in one piece without leaving anything in there. I don't know if that was already shattered, or whether that happened when I was trying to get the rest of it out. I'll never know that. But what I know is that if the actual shaft itself is that brittle, if it's that brittle that it's stuck on and snaps so easily, it's probably not going to be very watertight, which means that the fuel is getting underneath the fuel pump and leaking straight down that hole into my crankcase, which would explain why my car won't start. It smells of fuel. The plugs smell of fuel, the oil stick smells of fuel, I've got fuel coming out of my rocker cover gaskets, rocker covers, because this is the problem. I initially thought it was the fuel pump and I was going to do a compression test to see. I'm still going to put a new fuel pump in, but I think this has been a major issue. So at least I've figured that out now. Okay, so what I need to do is try and get that shaft out, I guess. Okay, wish me luck.